Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we have a truly fascinating journey ahead of us. We're going to unpack the complex building blocks of the decentralized web. Now, if you've ever felt completely overwhelmed by terms like cryptography, blockchain, smart contracts, or DeFi, well, you are in exactly the right place. Our goal today is to demystify this entire ecosystem. We're going to take these seemingly abstract concepts and break them down so you can see exactly how they work, and more importantly, why they're literally revolutionizing the way we think about trust, ownership, and our data.
Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to progressively build our understanding by stacking these technologies layer by layer. Here's our roadmap. First, the foundation of trust. Then, cryptocurrencies and consensus. Next up, programmable money, followed by decentralized finance, self-sovereign digital identity, and finally, we'll wrap up with challenges and the future.
Section 1. The Foundation of Trust.
All right, let's start with Layer 1. This is the absolute bedrock of our entire tech stack, because before we can even think about having decentralized money or apps, we need a secure, rock-solid way to record information without relying on a middleman. And to do that, we use a blockchain. At its core, a blockchain is just a decentralized and distributed digital ledger. You see, unlike a traditional database that's controlled by, say, a single tech company or a bank, a blockchain network maintains identical copies of this ledger on numerous independent computers all over the world. We call these computers nodes. Transactions are grouped together into blocks, and here's the magic part. Each block contains a cryptographic reference, a hash, to the previous block. Because every single block mathematically depends on the one right before it, altering any past records becomes pretty much impossible. It's like a giant tamper-proof puzzle, and that is what gives the system its incredible data integrity.
To make this abstract concept a bit more concrete, let's actually walk through this step by step. First, a user initiates a transaction. Let's say you're sending some digital value. Second, this request is broadcast to the network, and the nodes validate the transaction based on strict, predefined rules. Third, once it's verified, this transaction is collected alongside a bunch of others into a brand new block. Fourth, the network uses a consensus mechanism to agree that this block is completely valid. And finally, step 5, the block is permanently linked to the chain. At this point, every participant updates their copy of the ledger. The whole shebang is a completely transparent and immutable history.
But looking at that process, it raises a massive question, right? If there's no central boss, no bank manager, and literally no single authority in charge, how does a decentralized network of thousands of strangers actually agree on what's true?
Section 2. Cryptocurrencies and consensus.
That brings us to our second layer, where we're adding the next building block to our stack, the digital assets themselves, and the specific cryptographic agreement protocols that keep the entire network secure from bad actors. Cryptocurrencies are the digital assets powered by the blockchain we just talked about. So the crucial point is how they're secured, and that happens through a system of public and private cryptographic keys. You can kind of think of your public key like an email address. It's just an identifier, it's how people know where to send you funds. But your private key? That's like your ultra-secure password. It provides the mathematical cryptographic signature required to actually authorize those transactions. You manage these keys via digital wallets. And because there's no central bank involved, transactions are verified collectively by network participants on a global, transparent scale. The most famous examples of this, of course, are Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Now back to how the network actually agrees. That's what we call consensus. There are two dominant consensus mechanisms out there. Over on the left, we have proof of work, famously used by Bitcoin. This requires network nodes or miners to use computational power to solve incredibly complex math puzzles. It is highly secure and obviously time-tested, but it's notoriously energy-intensive. We're talking sometimes using more electricity than entire small countries. On the right side, we have proof of stake, which is currently used by Ethereum. Instead of competing with raw computer power, validators are selected to create blocks based on the amount of cryptocurrency they've locked up or staked as collateral. This method is faster and consumes significantly less energy. Both of these methods beautifully solve the problem of network agreement, but they take completely different approaches to energy usage and validator selection.
So we have a secure ledger, and we have digital money that runs on top of it. But that leads us to a really fascinating question. Why would I want to program my money? I mean, if Bitcoin lets me own and send value, isn't that enough?
Section 3. Programmable money.
Well, while the original vision of cryptocurrency was just a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, innovators quickly realized something huge. If money is just code on a blockchain, we can write complex rules for how, when, and why that money moves. The answer lies in smart contracts.
A smart contract is a self-executing computer program stored directly on a blockchain. Basically, when specified conditions are met, the contract automatically performs predefined actions. A lot of developers use languages like Solidity on the Ethereum network to write these. And here's the kicker. Once these contracts are deployed to the blockchain, they generally cannot be modified. This is revolutionary because it completely eliminates the need for human intermediaries to enforce an agreement. Code itself becomes the law, and this forms the very foundation for what we call decentralized applications, or DApps.
And this brilliantly illustrates the concept right here. Think of a smart contract exactly like a vending machine. You don't need to negotiate with a cashier to buy a soda, right? The machine has hard-coded rules. Insert your coin, press the button, get your soda. A smart contract does the exact same thing, but for digital assets, tokens, and data. If the program's conditions are met, the asset is automatically dispensed or the data is updated. No humans involved whatsoever.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is seeing exactly how our tech stack builds from the bottom up. The blockchain is our foundation. Cryptocurrencies depend on that blockchain. Smart contracts also depend on the blockchain to run their automated agreements. And as we look toward DeFi and digital identity, we can see how entirely new industries are born just by combining these earlier layers. We are literally building a totally new digital infrastructure from the ground up.
Section 4. Decentralized finance.
Because smart contracts all speak the same underlying language, especially on platforms like Ethereum, they can be combined and linked together to form a massive interoperable financial ecosystem. Enter DeFi. Instead of a centralized stock exchange, we now have decentralized exchanges, or DEXs, where smart contracts allow users to trade crypto directly with one another. We have lending platforms where you can earn interest or borrow funds using your own crypto as collateral, and it's all governed by code. We also have stablecoins, which are cryptocurrencies designed to maintain a stable value, usually pegged to something like the US dollar, giving users some much-needed stability in a volatile market. And perhaps most importantly, this whole system is non-custodial. That means you maintain complete control of your funds through your private keys. There is no centralized bank pulling the strings or holding your money hostage.
So we've seen how we can decentralize money and really complex financial services. But this prompts a deeply personal question. If we can decentralize finance, what about our personal data? Every single time you log into a website or prove your age online, you're relying on a centralized system.
Section 5. Self-sovereign digital identity.
Traditional identity systems rely on huge, centralized honeypots of data. Think about massive tech companies or government databases holding all of your personal information in one place. Well, the blockchain alternative to this is called self-sovereign identity, or SSI. It allows you to actually own, manage, and control your digital identity and credentials. In this system, you use something called decentralized identifiers, or DIDs. These identifiers aren't issued by a social media company or your email provider. They are generated and controlled purely by your own cryptographic keys. You decide exactly who gets access to your verifiable credentials and exactly how much information you want to share.
Let's move to and see how this builds in a real-world scenario. Imagine you graduate from college. First, your university, who acts as the issuer, generates a digital academic credential. Step 2. The university cryptographically signs this credential using their on-chain decentralized identifier. Step 3. You, the holder, store this credential safely in your private digital wallet on your phone. Then, when you go to apply for a job, you present this to a verifier, like an employer. Step 4. The employer mathematically checks the university's signature against the blockchain to make sure it's authentic. Your privacy is brilliantly maintained here because the employer only checks the cryptographic proof. They don't need to call the university or access some centralized database.
Section 6. Challenges and the future.
Now, we've explored some incredible potential today, for sure, but to truly understand this space, we must impartially look at the current hurdles this tech stack faces as it attempts to scale globally, because the challenges are definitely significant. First is scalability. A lot of blockchains currently struggle to process the sheer volume of transactions that massive networks like Visa can handle. Second is energy consumption, which is a specific critique of those legacy proof-of-work systems we talked about. Third, there is massive regulatory uncertainty across the globe, as governments are scrambling to figure out how to classify these assets. Fourth, the technical complexity for everyday users is frankly still too high. Managing private keys can be really daunting. And finally, because transactions are irreversible, there's a stark risk of scams, smart contract hacks, and lost funds if private keys are compromised. It's absolutely vital to remember that this is an emerging global infrastructure that is still actively being developed, debated, and refined.
Which brings us to our conclusion. From the foundational blockchain ledger up through cryptocurrencies, smart contracts, DeFi, and digital identity, we are witnessing a massive paradigm shift. These technologies are fundamentally redefining how value is exchanged, how agreements are enforced, and how our personal information is managed. So I want to leave you with this final thought. As we continue to shift away from centralized middlemen toward a completely user-controlled digital ecosystem, how will true digital ownership change your daily life? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep exploring.